Hi, I'm Edie.
I'm Judy.
And
together we're the Rainbow Grannies.
Yay!
We are so excited because we have a guest with us today.
Hi, my name's Leisha.
Leisha, we are so glad to have you here. We had been telling all our fans on TikTok and all our fans on YouTube that you were coming and got everybody all pumped up. So before we go any further, I want to make sure that they know Leisha is our transgender guest, and we have an opportunity to ask her questions and share things with her, and she to share with us. So make sure you click subscribe. Make sure you hit the bell so that you'll get any other notices that we come up with, so that, you know, anytime our videos are running. So if you don't subscribe, then shame on you. Rainbow Granny's all upset. Okay.
Don't want to make Rainbow Grannies upset.
That's right. No upset around here.
Yeah, and so first, Leisha, I want to thank you for agreeing to come on. You know, we've only met today, right?
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's no problem.
Yeah, and this is, you know, having transition, this is a topic that a lot of folks want to know about because, you know, it's been in the news, but, you know, very few people really realize that they even know anybody who's transitioned.
Absolutely.
And, you know, kind of like nobody knows when they meet somebody gay, they don't know they know somebody gay. Right? And so what we want to do is if you can just tell us your story.
Absolutely.
And we can start there.
Sure. So I transitioned. I came out in December of 2021. So pretty recently.
Yeah, that is recent.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was 33. I came out to my wife on Christmas. I had some experiences earlier in my life where I had thought about being trans, but then I had always kind of shoved it down and been like, this isn't no. And then
and would you say because you didn't see anybody in public kind of thing who's transitioned, it just
absolutely.
Yeah.
The lack of knowledge of trans people. Especially growing up like a kid in the 90s in West Virginia, there's not very much trans representation in the area.
Well, I gotta ask you, before you did your transition and everything, had you even thought that maybe you were gay, or did you think of anything going on like that, or just?
No, I had for the longest just convinced myself that I was just a normal cis man.
It's like you kind of thought about it and pushed it away because I know from my experience being gay, it's like, well, I knew I was attracted to women, but I had no language for it as a kid.
Right.
And so you're saying even as a kid, you felt something.
Yeah, I felt something, but I had always, for the longest, just tried to do things that I didn't really enjoy, but I felt that this is what straight men do.
Okay, like what kind of things?
Try to things like drinking certain types of alcohol, participating in sports.
So you kind of forced yourself
right.
to do that. Right. I don't mean to make you feel uncomfortable. I'm just trying to make sure we're all in here on the camera.
Yeah. Being in frame is important.
Yeah, because I keep noticing I'm dozing off here.
It's a little list.
Yes.
And so you were doing sports, but you weren't really into the sports. Are there any sports that you're into now? Or?
Not particularly.
Yeah. So it's like we're having to do sports and you don't even like doing them.
But then we can totally understand that, because I had the ugliest polka dotted dress when I was young. My grandma bought me a dress and it had big polka dots on it, and I remember crying because it was not me. It was just not me. But, you know, my mom said, just wear it this one time.
There's just things that you convince yourself this is what's expected of me socially, so this is the thing that I'm gonna do.
Right. Yeah. And so what changed? I mean, how did you go from a kid feeling that to 30-some-year-old adult and transitioning? What were some of the things that happened in between?
So for the longest time, it was just bouts of sadness through just seeing. It's a lot of people refer to it as gender envy. So seeing things that other women were doing and just being envious of the type of things that they got to experience.
Like what?
Um,
I mean,
no, it's a fair question.
Okay.
A lot of it is like the social aspect. Women generally have tighter social bonds.
Oh yes, yeah, they do.
With either people around them or like family members or like your mom.
Right.
And so it was that. It was
like heart to heart kind of talks
Mhm.
instead
Well,
of just talking about the school.
We can
and
talk
holding.
about it with like just our daughters. Judy has a daughter and so do I. And we're both extremely close to our daughters. You know,
Mhm.
where I have a son and I'm close to him, but I talk to him maybe once a week. My daughter, if we don't text once every day, it's like, what happened to her? You know, did she
Yeah.
fall off the planet? You know, are we okay? What's wrong? You know, so.
Absolutely. Yeah, men have very estranged relationships. It's not uncommon for, like you said, for men to not talk to each other for long periods
Right.
and then just try to jump in like nothing happened.
Yes.
Or they'll be afraid to like talk about emotions,
Right.
and you bottle up a lot of that stuff just because you're told, hey, like men don't cry. It's like the common
Right.
thing that you get told.
Yeah.
And that stuff's not
So you
healthy.
had, yeah, right. So you had bouts of sadness that helped
Mhm.
you make you aware that there was something wrong.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, you
something
weren't-
beyond
you weren't-
just normal depression. That you know.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you were growing up, did you find yourself playing a lot with girls, or did you just have to play with boys because that's what was expected?
I just played with boys because it was just like normal
Right.
Yeah.
at the time.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I mean, we totally, completely understand it. Yeah, I'm so glad you're here to share with us.
I
You
am
know,
too.
and to share with everybody else and let them know what this is like. And
Alright, so when you were a teenager,
Mm-hmm.
you were hanging out with the guys,
Yep.
and were you dating?
Kind of.
Kind
I
of.
was again. It was one of those things where it's like, well, I didn't really feel. I didn't really feel like I was interested in like just normal like cis dating.
Mm-hmm.
But it was one of those things where, like I said before, you're supposed to try to find like a girlfriend
Right.
or try to end up with somebody, and that just wasn't. It was just something I felt like I had to do.
yeah.
I was wondering what it was like even seeing teenage girls, and if it was, I mean, did you notice the sadness mostly when you were little, or more when you became a teenager, or was it just kind of like a low grade fever all the time?
I think it was more like a low grade fever. It definitely became more apparent, or I became
Mhm.
more aware of it at the very least as I
Mhm.
grew older.
So were
Yeah.
your parents aware of any, you know, differences in you? Did anybody say to you when you were little, you know, there's something wrong, or
Oh no,
no? They didn't even notice at all.
No, not
Wow.
even a little bit.
Because you know how everybody always says, you know, my mom really knew I was gay, you know, but she just never said anything or
Yeah.
anything like that.
Yeah, again, I just don't think we had like the language for it at the time.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
trans people weren't a thing.
Right. Well, they were, but
Well, like,
we didn't,
yeah.
But we didn't get exposed to very many.
Yeah.
And when we did, it was talked about like it was just such a horrible thing,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know.
Yeah, I remember movies. There was always the bad guy in the movie.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
You
And
still
then
see
it
that
became the
some,
funny guy.
you know,
you
like
know.
your Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yes, that
Yeah.
kind of stuff, right? You know.
Yeah. Of course, trans people have existed for like a long period, but the prevalence of the internet has definitely helped with
Definitely.
exposure.
Yeah.
It's like stuff like this.
Right,
Stuff
right.
like this
Yeah.
And
wouldn't
what we
happen.
noticed was Judy was just telling me this morning there was about a trans young man that was at the beach, and he had his scars showing, and some lady walked up to him and says, you know, what are those scars on your chest for, or whatever. And the way I try to look at it is the reason we're exposed to those scars is because we watch a lot of TikTok and stuff, and we're on that side of TikTok. So on that side of TikTok, we've been exposed to a lot of men, transition men, that have had these surgeries done. So we know if we were to see somebody with that. So I can almost understand maybe the way the woman approached that young man was not good.
Mhm.
But I can understand where she was kind of wondering what happened to his chest.
Mhm.
You know?
A lot of people are just like curious, especially saying things like that. And yeah, it's never really a conversation that like you want to have, but it's I think it's a pretty important part of the experience, the education, and like kind of like bringing people up to speed on some of the things that we deal with.
Well, what happened between teenagerhood and 30 some years old, and you decided to make the transition? How did you come out to yourself?
To just decide this was it.
Oh.
And because we know, some people will say, oh, the teacher came in as a teacher last year and was male, and all of a sudden, just like that, they came in this year and they're female, as if there was never anybody ever talking about it. Anybody, they think it's something that just changes. Like people just make it, and not that, what happened. I mean, you don't just decide, oh, I'm going to transition now, and like none of your friends and colleagues or family would even know about it.
Right. So for me, at the very least, a lot of it was exposure to trans content creators on YouTube and TikTok. It was there are communities on the internet of people who are like gender questioning. And so a lot of that was exposure to things like that, and seeing people that were questioning their gender and being like, oh, I'm also having these experiences. And
so it wasn't a part of any of that grooming thing or nothing like that.
Yeah, no. That's
nobody groomed you and talked you into deciding that you wanted to be trans.
Yeah, no, that's not a thing.
And also, is saying trans a proper way to speak of it, or do you need me to say transgender?
I think just trans is fine.
Okay.
As long as we don't. Transsexual is a very antiquated term that you still see some people throw around. And while it might be like the accuracy of it is like questionable, I think it's just like an antiquated term, and it's really hard to just like hear of it and you think like Rocky Horror Picture Show,
Right?
Which I've never seen really.
It's such a movie.
I think I fell asleep.
And then I think the final straw, at the very least for me, was there are apps on the phone now that'll allow you to do things like edit your pictures,
Yeah.
or and a lot of people use it for just like touching up photos. However, there are filters on like apps and like TikTok where it'll allow you to see like what you would look like as the opposite gender.
Yeah.
And for me, that was like the final straw. Was I remember being in the back of a car, messing with apps, and I found one of those, and I put it on myself, and it was that moment of like, there I am.
Oh wow! Now eating out, I'm gonna cry.
Yeah, Judy's a waterhead. You can take her down real easy.
Wow, it gives me goosebumps. Well, it is. I mean, if you go for so long, and now you can see yourself, and now you can see yourself and say, "This is me."
Yeah.
Because you look in the mirror, and all you can do is imagine, or people will put on wigs, or they would put on clothes, but that's not it quite yet, right? But when you can actually see, this is what I would look like. This is me.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So then what happened from there?
From there, it was kind of coming just to grips with, okay, now this is who, like I had that like there I am moment, and it's like, okay, well now how do I communicate this to other people?
That's where my fear would be. How are you going to tell your wife?
It's so scary.
Oh, I can't even imagine. Except for the fact that she must have been extremely open-minded to begin with, because
Absolutely.
To be able to be that comfortable with somebody,
And even with my wife being as comfortable as she was, there are of course moments where you're like, okay, well, this is probably how it's gonna go, but what if it doesn't?
Yeah.
And you kind of like try to prepare yourself for the worst.
Well, what you had to, because now that you've kind of had your aha moment, you probably got to be like, it's about me now. And now that I know what I need to be what I am, because like I tell people all the time, this is not a dress rehearsal.
Absolutely.
We don't
not.
have, right. It's not like I can turn around and be 80 years old and say, I wish I would have did this and make it different. You can't. It is what it is. So now, at least you did it by the time you were 30-something to go ahead and live the rest of your life being yourself.
Absolutely.
Your true self, which is wonderful.
And it's one of those things where, like, once you realize it, you can't put it back in the box.
Right. Okay. You can't.
Wow.
You can't.
Yep.
So when you were looking at the apps and all of this, and when you were looking at these support groups, did your wife know? Did you talk with your wife
Oh,
about
no.
this? Or this was all okay?
Oh no, this
It
is
is
all
all had to
absolutely
be-
in
you
secret.
had
Oh
to
my
find
God, you
out.
was sneaking. You was sneaking, peeking at yourself. Oh, that's like when you come home and find out your underwear are in a different drawer than they were when you
How did
left.
I get there?
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute, these aren't mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to go through all of that by yourself. Were you talking with other people in these groups, or was it all just like?
I was like
Texting
I
stuff?
was talking with different people. Again, it mostly wasn't like talking with people online. It was seeing experiences and relating to them.
Yeah.
Seeing other people kind of
Yeah.
like talk with each other because
Mhm.
I think there was still that degree of like or wanting to keep that degree of separation from like
Yeah.
oh like what if
Yeah.
Right. And I can understand keeping that
So-
to yourself, because how would you explain to somebody why I'm drawn to this when you don't even know
Mhm.
yet why you're drawn to it?
yeah
Right.
So
absolutely.
you really have nothing you can say.
So there are certain people that are easier to do than other people, 'cause especially if you know like their political leanings and stuff, or you're more familiar with them. It's easier. Like so, there's always that question of like, well, what if?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, of course, telling my wife was terrifying. I just kind of bit the bullet. So I had that conversation, or I mentioned earlier about having the app and seeing like that, like here it is moment. Coming out to my wife was less than 24 hours after that. It was just like
Wow.
It had to be immediate.
I had
where you
yeah.
read it,
those
because
nights
you-
where you just stayed awake all night wondering how am I going to do it? How am I going to do it? How am
yeah,
I going to do
and
it?
that's why I didn't want to have that. So I was like, well, if I sit here and think about it, then it's just going to get harder.
Yes.
So I just kind of took the leap.
Well, to tell you, you know this without me even telling you. I mean, you're extremely blessed because, a
Absolutely.
lot of people that go up against that, I try to tell people all the time, not everybody's going to have a big old coming out party for you.
Mhm.
Sometimes, the wife isn't going to react like yours did where it's all ends up happily ever after. But in that, it's very important that I feel that you have the opportunity to be yourself.
Absolutely.
So, you have to just you have to decide, and everybody has to make sure they're in a safe space. A lot of times the kids will come on here and they'll ask us, what about coming out and everything? And I'll tell them, nothing feels better than to just say who you are and be who you are.
Mhm.
But you want to make sure you're in a safe space. So if you're not in a safe space, you want to make sure you get to that place before you jump up and announce it to anybody.
Mhm. Absolutely. But I feel like in the end, if they really love you for you, then
Yes.
they'll, you're still you at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right. So what were you afraid was going to happen? What kind of scenarios ran through your head?
Everything. From having like a strain on the relationship to thoughts of like, oh well, she's just gonna leave me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like your relationship is better and stronger now?
Absolutely.
That's good. Well, because you're not hiding and lying,
Yeah.
and sneaking and playing with your apps on your phone. If you are, you're not playing with them like that.
No, I want to go back because you weren't lying anyway. There was no
Well, when
lying.
you're lying to yourself,
right.
that's it.
Right.
That's about lying to yourself on who you
Right,
really.
trying to be someone that you're not, trying to
Mhm.
fit into the mold that you don't fit into.
And now that I'm
Yeah.
more honest about like myself and who I am, I'm happier. Which happiness spreads. It's
yes.
like you hear all the time. Like if you smile, then someone else like in the area is more
true.
likely to smile.
Yeah.
So by being happier about being myself, it's had amazing effects on our relationship.
Good news.
We're going to wind up this one section here and thank everybody very much for watching us and sharing our time with Leisha. And then we're going to take a little tiny break here. Little tiny break. And then we're going on to a whole nother subject with Leisha. Thank you very much.
See you then.
See you
Bye.
soon.